I've avoided this topic for as long as I can, but I just can't have a responsible YouTube account that's centered around personal finance and not talk about budgeting. Budgeting is a topic that you either love or loathe. There seems to be no middle ground. If you nerd out on this kind of thing, you seem to love to talking about your 25 categories and 75 subcategories of expense tracking that you swear makes a difference, and how you've developed superpowers in how to drive them, almost all of them, to near zero. Or you view it like going to the dentist, and that you try and find every possible way to avoid it. And once you go, you find the nearest corner to hide in to avoid the inevitable accountability of having not flossed since your last visit. Today I would like to describe how we fully transitioned our outlook of budgeting from ones that seemed like a dental visit to a freeing tool that allows us to spend, and then discuss some tips and pitfalls I've learned when it comes to budgeting, especially when doing it as part of a couple. Hi, my name is Kurt, and my wife of 32 years and I have been retired for 3.5 years, and we've learned a lot along the way. Prior to retirement, I spent 30 years in corporate America, working on lean manufacturing and continuous process improvement. That experience has given me a great desire to how to optimize each and every situation. If this kind of content seems like something that's of interest to you, or could help you, please subscribe to the channel and click on the notification bell so that you'll get notified when I drop new videos. If this content looks like it would be helpful to someone else in your life, please forward them the link to the channel and this video. Hitting the like button will always help, as this gets this channel in front of more people, as YouTube uses all of these signals to drive this content to other users. Also, please remember that I'm not a financial advisor, and this content should be viewed as informational only. So when my wife and I first got married, we'd graduated from college with our undergraduate degrees 1 week prior, and neither one of us had a job lined up. We packed what little things we owned and moved 1,000 miles away to Phoenix, Arizona. We soon both got our entry-level jobs and embarked on our first phase of budgeting, what I like to call the life raft phase. We were not trying to be altruistic or visionary in this budgeting process. We were simply trying to figure out how not to drown. Rent, check. Utilities, check. Gas in cars that were insured only to liability, check. Food, check. Ish. Saving enough to get the company 401k match, check. Ugh, that one hurt. Entertainment and miscellaneous? Yeah, right. Because we elected to have children starting 3 short years later, and my wife stopped working outside the home shortly after that, our life raft phase lasted well into our late 20s. As we neared our 30s, we had somehow figured out a way to have 3 children, and I was able to spend 2 years while working to obtain my MBA. This meant a huge improvement to the income side of our budget, and we spent the majority of our 30s in what I would like to call the sloppy financial years. After we had lived for a long time on a disciplined, strict budget that didn't allow for entertainment and eating out, or travel, we spent our 30s not really adhering to much of a budget, certainly not a very strict one. We were steadily increasing our savings toward retirement, but at a snail's pace. We weren't wasting money or taking on new debt, but we certainly could have been saving more. The next phase of our financial/budgeting life was navigating through the truly expensive years. As children grew and became young adults and began driving and going to college. Here, we were budgeting again to avoid our financial life from going into the ditch. We didn't live as scarcely as we did in our 20s, but we didn't travel and level up on our house and cars the way our colleagues did. As the kids started going to and finishing college, the wiggle room in our budget became larger and larger. These years of excess is when we started to throw money hand over fist at savings, fully taking advantage of all tax advantage retirement savings, as well as building bridge accounts for early retirement. Finally, as we entered our retirement, we sat down to our current phase of budgeting. This may very well have been the most difficult for me. After 30 plus years of trying to balance spending and saving, my kids would argue that I leaned way too heavily on the saving side of the equation. I found it very hard to allocate and spend money that we've been saving for all those years on anything but the bare necessities. So my wife and I sat down as we retired and negotiated spending on non-essentials. We still live on what I would categorize as frugal, but we do spend at least a third of our annual budget on non-essentials. This phase of budgeting is proving to be the most rewarding, though, as it allows us to sit down and discuss what's really important to us and ensure that we're allocating our resources appropriately. This is certainly a work in process, as we're just 3.5 years into this retirement thing, and we will likely change somewhat going forward. No matter where you are on your budgeting journey, I thought I'd try to provide some tips to implement. First, track your spending for at least 3 months, but preferably 12 months to see where your money is going. Human nature is going to make this adversarial, and try to enter this as non-judgmental as possible, as this is just the data gathering phase. This is an incredibly valuable data mining expedition. It's also human nature to rationalize in our heads that we don't spend as much as we really do. Start with the assumption that everything will net to zero. You are going to give every single dollar a purpose. Pay yourself first with regards to retirement savings and other large savings goals. Kids' college, for example, or prepaying existing debt. It's very important to separate the essentials from the non-essentials. I recommend you just start with as few essentials as possible so that you can prioritize the rest of your spending. Prioritize your non-essential spending. Agree with your spouse on what comes first, second, and third. Also, don't forget to more lumpy type of expenditures that are only annual or even less frequent. Next, track your spending against this new budget. This can be as simple as pen and paper, or a spreadsheet, or via an app that downloads and categorizes all of your expenses for you. This first draft is only that, a starting point. You can iterate this process as often as you like. The default emotion as you go through this is to view it as restrictive and full of potential conflict. And quite honestly, that's how it was in my household until retirement. But this budgeting process can actually be very cathartic and freeing. Ultimately, you want to ensure that your budget and ultimately your spending matches your values and not your neighbor's values. Thanks. That's all I have for today. Have a great day.